Welcome to video number 4, which is called How Do You Learn Critical Thinking? Critical thinking is a university course. You usually learn that when taking introductory philosophy at the university or college. And critical thinking is the study of what constitutes good argumentation, what makes an argument good. I've taught critical thinking for over 20 years. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go through it here, but here I'm going to make one fundamental point. When you study critical thinking, you learn that an argument consists of premises and a conclusion. The argument is good if the premises are adequate and relevant. And what does that mean? Well, the premises are adequate to the extent that they can be supported as true, and the premises are relevant to the extent that they can support a conclusion. I could say much more about the criteria then for adequacy and relevance, or about the difference between logically valid and invalid argument structures, but the important point that I want to make here is to say all of this is very important. You need to practice good reasoning. There are a lot of fallacies and traps that are easily to fall into and be fooled by. But if you are going to evaluate whether arguments are good, so in other words, if you are to evaluate the adequacy and the relevance of the arguments, then you also need to know basic facts by heart. And the more you know, the better you become at evaluating arguments. You need this basic platform to build on, because if you don't know anything to begin with, then it's impossible to evaluate adequacy and relevance, and thus how good arguments are. Then it can sound equally reasonable that the earth is round or flat, or that vaccines are safe or they are dangerous, etc. So evaluation of adequacy and relevance, evaluation of how good arguments are, that happens based on what you know from before and how well the new information fits with what you already know. When you have a foundation, then you can start building further. And that's why schools and universities want you to internalize the most important things in all the different subjects that you study. You need this basic structure in your head that gives you a rough but correct representation of the world. Because then you can encounter new claims, you can check how well does this fit with what I already know. And if you manage to fit it in, then you take the new information with you and you further build and refine this representation of the world that you have in your head. So the better your understanding of the world becomes, what is true about the world, then the wiser you become and the better choices you can make. But the point is that you must build this structure in your brain. That takes time and it's difficult. You can't just store all knowledge on a PC or in the cloud. You must store the knowledge in your own brain. And that knowledge will not stick in your brain if you just read quick summaries or have AI answer questions for you. It only sticks when you read and write and think and discuss and review and revise and repeat, etc. All the things that we together call active learning. This is very clear from research. The more students use AI when they write an assignment, the worse they are at answering questions about the topic afterwards. So you should think of learning as you do with other training, physical training. If a robot lifts weights for you, you won't get strong. It doesn't help your stamina if you just ask your robot vacuum cleaner to take a couple of extra rounds around the house. And likewise, if an AI answers questions and writes texts for you, you don't get smart. But you should want a healthy and strong body, and you should want a smart and knowledgeable brain. Both of them require effort and hard work, but it also gives great rewards. So to present a small example at the end, I read a lot about AI, and thus I have a fairly structured, detailed structure in my head about AI and its role and place in the world, etc. And for that reason, I can go around and give lectures about AI to people, which I do, and then we have discussions afterwards. I could have AI create a nice PowerPoint presentation for me and just show that, but then I would have been helpless in the discussion afterwards when people start asking questions and want to discuss. If I can't answer any question, then they might as well just ask AI to make a presentation for them. They would not need to invite me. But since I can answer questions and we can have a discussion, we can all learn new things and get better at understanding how AI should play a role in our world. And this example that I now gave on myself and AI, that applies to all jobs, all communities and contexts where you are also a part, because you can learn stuff, you can contribute at a school or in a hospital or in a church, in a neighborhood or family or whatever, and discuss with the others, what should we do here and now? What are good goals for us to pursue? I think that now, moving forward in time, employers, they will need to know who are capable of independent critical thinking so that they can figure out who can contribute at our workplace. But the problem is, anyone can write a very nice job interview, job application, by the use of with the help of AI. And so I think that employers will now, in job interviews, they will start asking candidates to sit down without AI and either read the text and answer questions, or write their own text, or solve other tasks, so that they can show that I can sit and work with a problem over time and do something sensible and come with reasonable answers and suggestions based on that. So this, I think, will be very important, and it takes time to learn, so it's well worth to start practicing already now.